Alrighty guys, we're going to be starting in just 1 minute, so 1 or 2 minutes away. Hello everybody, today is Friday, April 20th, 2012, and this is episode number 2 of the Diablo Daily. I started off thinking I had fixed my blue screen error, and apparently it blue screened again earlier today, so it turns out it's still a driver issue, and I'm sorry in advance if I end up blue screening because it's like really random, so I could go days without blue screening and it'll be fine. Other times I won't blue screen at all, so I don't know. Like I said, it's random, and we're just going to have to kind of roll with it and hope for the best. And then, after today's episode, I will work on that a bit more. But anyway, this is episode number 2 of the Diablo Daily, and today I'm going to be talking all about character customization and what classes you could potentially play. Although I did want to jump into a little bit of news and stuff first. Something that Blizzard just said within the last couple of days was that they were going to be starting off a new ladder season in Diablo 2. So for those of you that played Diablo 2 or wanted to jump back into Diablo 2, that starts on May 2nd. If you haven't played Diablo 2 but want to give it a chance, basically ladder is just Blizzard wipes all the characters and says, okay, have at it. And then there's an actual ladder that you can see your ranking compared to everybody else on the server. So, the big thing is to, the race to level 99, because that's the max level in Diablo 2. So that's one of the big things. Like I said, that starts May 2nd, and the Diablo III beta ends May 1st. So for those 2 weeks that you're looking for games to play, well, now you can just play Diablo 2 while you wait for Diablo 3. Actually, speaking of the beta, Blizzard surprisingly did an open beta, but it's only for this weekend. So the Diablo 3 beta is going to be completely open just for this weekend. I believe until Monday morning. I think somebody said 10 p.m. PST, which sounds about right. From what I was told, it was just Monday morning. I didn't actually see a date. but I didn't read the official announcement. So yes, open beta from now until Monday morning. Now, I also haven't tried to get on the game, but from what I'm told, the servers are down, or they're overcapacitated, or something along those lines, so you can't actually get on. I was planning on streaming some Diablo 3 with EG Machine. He's one of the StarCraft 2 players after the show, but I kind of don't think that's going to be able to happen now because the servers are all messed up. But I guess it's better for Blizzard to get this out of the way than rather have these problems on launch day, because that would just be garbage. So like I said, today we're going to get into class customization and what classes are what potential builds you can have, pretty much the focus of each of the classes. And to start off, I wanted to talk a little bit about Diablo 1 and 2. But before I actually get into what classes there are and their pros and cons and whatnot, I want to talk a little bit about customization. In the first two Diablo games, you were able to allocate stat points. Stat points being vitality, energy, or magic from Diablo 1. So vitality, magic/energy, dexterity, and strength. Basically, strength just allowed you to wear certain types of armor, different pieces of weapons, things of that nature. Dexterity allowed you to, at least I think in Diablo 1, have better precision. I could be wrong, so I'd have to double check that, but I know that it helped your block rate. So, you know, there was a certain point where you didn't want to put points into dexterity anymore. Things like that. Let's see, magic was for mana, just gave you extra mana points, and health was same thing, just for vitality was the same thing for health. It just gave you extra health points. Now, the problem with this system from Diablo 1 and 2 was that if you accidentally put a point into a trait or a stat that you didn't want to, you kind of screwed yourself. In Diablo 2, patch 1.13, I think it's 1.13, that was added within like the last 2 or 3 years or so. So just recently, because again the game's 10 years old, allowed you to reset your stat points and your skill points. So basically respec your character, which was great. But for the first 10 years, you were pretty much screwed. Part of that, I guess, was fun because you pretty much had to plan your character out step by step. Like, I need to have 63 points of strength to use these boots, which give me 20 strength. So I can use this armor, which gives me 10 strength, which, I mean, the last Diablo 2 character I made, I had planned out exactly like that. It was a skeletal summoner, necromancer was the character and the build that I chose. And basically I had it planned out perfectly, so I had just enough strength to wear all my gear, like the lowest gear, so I can get, so I can wear the next piece of armor and whatnot, like I was just explaining. I had just enough dexterity to have maximum block, and then basically I just dumped everything else at vitality, which was basically what everybody did. So I mean, if you're a good player, that was what you did. If you were a new player, well, you didn't know that, and you pretty much just put 1 point in everything just because, you know, that makes sense, and it's nice and even for everything. But after a while, you would not be able to have enough strength to wear whatever items, and you'd run into these problems. And as a new player, you didn't know that. So that was one of the bad things about that system. So basically, Blizzard just said, well, we're just going to automatically allocate all your stat points. And people kind of complained about that, saying, well, you know, it's less character customization, and Blizzard's response to that was basically what I was just saying. There's really no customization there, and if by customization you mean if you screw up, your character's screwed and you have to rebuild him, or if you do it right, then you did it right and you really don't have any advantages other than the fact that you didn't screw up. So there's really no customization there. It's either you did it right or you did it wrong. Like there's nothing unique about that. I don't even think I could think of one potential build that you needed or should use energy. I mean, okay, maybe there was one build as a sorceress where you max, you know, magic shield or mana shield, I don't even remember what the hell it's called, and you want the extra mana. But otherwise, there was literally not one. Like, if you put a point into energy, you were a garbage player. And I'm sorry if anybody listening actually did that, because, I mean, I did that when I first started. What the hell did I know? Until I, you know, started realizing it, and I read about stuff on the internet. But how is that? I guess that's fun for some people. I mean, I enjoyed planning out that necromancer character I was talking about, but for some people it's just like, I want to jump in the game and play. I don't want to have to sit and spend hours on Google trying to figure out how to not screw up my character. So basically that's the gist of the stat point system. It was in D1 and D2, and they're not removing it from Diablo 3, they're just automatically allocating it for us, so we don't have to worry about making that mistake. Another way to customize your character is itemization, obviously. Finding items and loot and all that, that's a huge part of Diablo. That's a big thing. Along with itemization comes crafting, Enchanting, which kind of was removed. Enchanting maybe will be back later. That was the Mystic. She was an artisan. If you don't really understand, don't worry. I'm just kind of briefly run through it, and I'm going to get into most of this stuff in later episodes. The Mystic was an artisan, and basically she was just an NPC who you could pay to enchant your armor and your weapons and things of that nature. So if I wanted to put poison damage on my sword and make it glow green, I would talk to her, and she would just do it for me for a price. And, you know, as simple as that. Blizzard got rid of her, saying that basically she didn't really add much to the game. So instead of having her give us enchantments, they kind of just threw the enchantments in the affix pool that could potentially spawn on items. So instead of me just finding a regular sword and going to her for poison damage, I might just find a poison damage sword that already glows green and stuff like that, because, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So whether or not she comes back in an expansion, I guess we shall see. Blizzard hasn't really said. I mean, they wanted to have her back, they just need to find out a great way to implement her. Anyway, customization. There's also socketing along with the last two. So itemization as a whole, that includes crafting, you know, finding items, and then socketing. Socketing in Diablo 2, we were able to socket runes to create rune words, and this was basically you find certain runes. Runes are just items that you can pick off the ground. You find runes and you place them into these whatever weapons. So you can do a weapon, sword, helm, whatever. And each rune had a special ability, so maybe one added magic find percentage, or one added health. The very last rune I remember was the Zod, and it added the ability to be indestructible. So that particular piece of armor was indestructible, and you didn't have to repair it ever. But like I was saying, there's also rune words. So if you put like a Zod and then an L and whatever other runes in a specific order, then you get this rune word. So there are a bunch of ones like Breath of the Dying and Spirit, Insight, and they all had their different abilities. Basically, if you put them in a specific order, it would just automatically not be a runed thing, it would be a rune-worded item, and it would have these special abilities, like the Insight gave your character plus whatever meditation, and meditation was just an aura that gave it automatically regenerated your mana points, which was awesome, making energy pretty useless. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of itemization. There's also charms, which were in Diablo 2, but charms were added to Diablo 3 originally, and then they were removed because it was just more items we had to find, and it wasn't really fun, was what Blizzard said, so they want to add that back in, probably in the expansion. And I mean, if we look back to Diablo 2, charms didn't get added until the Diablo 2 expansion, Lord of Destruction, anyway. So that's not too big of a deal. So we've got itemization, which includes crafting and socketing, gems and whatnot. In Diablo 3 there's no runes, there's just gems in Diablo 3. Pretty much the same exact premise. You pick up gems off the ground and they add special abilities. There's no rune words or gem words or anything like that. It's just, if I find an emerald, then it adds poison damage, or poison resist, or whatever they have it set to. That's pretty much the gist of it. Stat points, and then basically the next big one was skills. Now, here is going to be pretty much the major topic for today's episode. I talked about character customization just a little bit. The major point that I wanted to talk about today is character skills. So in Diablo 1, I kind of touched on this a little bit on Wednesday's episode, the first episode. Diablo 1 had three classes. Originally it was 3 classes, and then the Hellfire expansion added 1 more class, technically 3 more classes. In the original Diablo 1, it was the Warrior, the Sorcerer, and the Rogue. And then the Diablo expansion, Hellfire, added the Monk, like, officially, and then they wanted to add the Bard and the Barbarian, and they didn't, I guess they ran out of time and didn't get a chance to implement them completely, but you were able to, like, go in there and set a command line switch or whatever, and have it add those classes so you could actually play them. They didn't have their own models or anything, they just used the Warrior and the Rogue models, and they just got a different skill. Now, in Diablo 1, everybody, for the most part, had the same exact skills. In Diablo, here, I'll pull up the video. In Diablo 1, let me pull this up. Screen. Okay, Diablo 1, this is the video I was showing last week, but he goes by this bookcase, so that helps me make my point. In Diablo 1, as you can see, actually right here, is the Warrior's repair skill. Now, in Diablo 1, each class had their own specific class skill, unique to that particular class. Like, the Warrior has this repair skill. The Sorcerer had repair staff, so he could, like, repair charges from staves. The rogue had find trap, which was actually really cool because let's say this chest right here could be potentially booby trapped. So if he clicks on it, an arrow might come out of the wall and hit him, or something like that. Maybe a fireball, whatever. I thought that was pretty cool. But the rogue had this one particular skill called find trap, and it would just allow her to see whether or not it's booby trapped or not. The monk had infravision. Now infravision is actually really cool. Infravision was something that they added in Diablo 2. Except it wasn't really a skill, it was just the ability to see items on the floor. In Diablo 1, you can't see that. Let me switch back to that. In Diablo 1, see, look, there's this gold laying right here on the floor, and you can't see that there's gold there. Any items that drop from these guys, you can't see. In Diablo 2, you can just hold Alt, and boom, you can see it, just by name and whatnot. But we didn't have that ability back in the Diablo 1 days. That was kind of cool that they did that in Hellfire. There's actually a bunch of changes that they added in Hellfire that got added to Diablo 2. Like, the ability to run wasn't even something you could do in Diablo 1. But yeah, I mean, they kind of took a lot of notes from that, which was really cool. Anyway, the monk had the infravision. I don't even remember what the bard and the barbarian had. Actually, I think the barbarian had rage, which, like, took away 10 health and gave him, like, a strength boost or something. The bard, I can't remember, so it's not a big deal. Like I said, they weren't even completely character classes in the game. They weren't really implemented all that well. You had to, like, go in there and set a switch in order to see them. But anyway, my point that I'm making here is that in Diablo 1, character classes did not have their own specific skill trees. They got one skill piece, and everything else was basically shared. So let me just jump right back into the video, and we can see him. Oh, wrong one. Jump right back into the video, and we can see him actually go to this bookcase any second. Basically, you'd find a bookcase out in the wilderness, and you would pick up a book. And this book is what would grant you... Oh yeah, we just saw this. This book is what will grant you a skill. Once you read the book, you've got the skill for good. It's permanent. It's a permanent skill. You're good to go. I'll just wait until that finishes. So, you read the book, you got the skill, good, fine. You got a level 1, let's say you pick up Fireball. You got a level 1 Fireball. Now, in order to level that skill up, you have to find another book of Fireball. And actually, in order to read that book, you have to have a certain amount of magic. So in Diablo 1, I guess magic was kind of useful, just because it was different. Diablo 2 was completely useless, because nobody needed mana points. Nobody cared. So Diablo 1, we've got this book system, which is kind of like, I'm going to call it a skill pool. So you can't actually choose your skills, you have to find them. See Scroll of Inferno? That's basically a charge, so you use that one time and you've got the charge. See here we've got the books and some scrolls, so basically they're red, he doesn't have enough magic points to use them, no big deal. These books, okay, so now if you want to level it up, like I said, you got to get another Book of Inferno. That was kind of a cool system. The only thing was, each of the 6 classes didn't really have anything unique. You didn't really ever use your class-specific skill. It just wasn't all that cool. I mean, repair, yeah, that's kind of great, but like it's not like Diablo 2 where every class has their own skill tree, like skill paths. That's completely different. You level up as you go. When you get extra levels, it's just so much different than Diablo 1. But again, Diablo 1 was 16 years ago. I was saying 15, whatever, about 15 years ago. So they kind of improved as they went along. That's the gist for Diablo 1. Now, I spent a lot of time yesterday actually doing some Diablo 2 videos, and I wanted to talk a bit about that. Let's pull up my wrong one. Let's pull up my first Diablo 2 video, and let's just do the assassin. Sorry about that. Okay, here we've got the assassin, and I'm just running around town. Basically, the assassin is the class. Let me pause this for a second. The assassin is like this martial arts summon traps kind of a class. She could throw down like lightning sentries, and these lightning sentries would just shoot lightning bolts, chain lightning, things of that nature. Or she could go martial arts, so she would have like these cool kicks and finishing moves, and like she'd teleport and like roundhouse kick somebody, which is pretty cool. Kind of unrealistic, I guess, but it's pretty cool. So that's the gist of the assassin. She is kind of like a mix between the warrior and the sorcerer, and I guess even the rogue. So probably more the rogue and the warrior, because she's kind of like a glass cannon type thing. So she can't really be up there tanking damage much. At least that's like the focus. She's not really supposed to be up there tanking damage, but more like laid back, summoning these traps or DPSing away while somebody else tanks damage. That's kind of the gist of the general thought process. Obviously, you don't have to go or by this specific rule of thumb. I mean, there were certain builds that I never had a chance to try this one, but it was like a Whirlwind Assassin. You could basically get these special claws, and claws are class-specific items for just the assassin. So you get these claws, and it grants you Whirlwind. I think they were Chaos Claws. I don't remember. I have to double check. But you get these claws, and it gives you the ability to use Whirlwind skill, which is a Barbarian skill from Diablo II. So you get that, and you can actually do that, so then you maybe focus things a little bit differently. You get pretty bulky armor, or you get an Enigma. An Enigma is something pretty much every character class can potentially use in Diablo II. The Enigma was a rune word that allowed you to... It added teleport, so it gave you the ability to teleport, which is originally supposedly only a sorceress skill. So it gave you the ability to teleport no matter what class you were, and actually I've got some video of that. So, I guess if you've never seen it before, it's kind of funky, but... that's not going to be in Diablo 3 for whatever reason. I guess they just didn't want everybody being able to teleport. All 5 classes in Diablo 3 have escape skills, but I'll talk about that in just a little bit. So let's jump back into my assassin video. Yes, and my webcam freezes a little bit because XSplit is a bit slow. Okay, assassin. Here I'm running around. I got a cool looking staff, and I'm about to drop some traps. Here we go. See these traps? You see, just shooting lightning bolts. It's pretty cool. That was basically the focus of my assassin because I'm more one of those caster type guys. I'm not really much into going up and running around and killing stuff with my bare hands. I like being able to cast cool things. So that's just me. It's my particular play style. See, I'm just running around. I'm casting these, sentries. This is lightning sentry. I think I actually used Death Sentry at one point. Death Sentry is another assassin skill. It's basically the same thing. Shoots out a lightning bolt, but instead it explodes any corpses are nearby, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, and here I've got Shockweb. It's kind of it's really like grenades in Diablo 3, which I can show off a little bit later. Yeah, and that's pretty much the gist of the assassin. So let's switch back to my webcam. Okay. So now we've seen the assassin. There's still 6 other classes. Originally there were 5 in Diablo 2, but there's 7 total after the expansion. So we have the assassin, the barbarian, the paladin, the amazon, the druid, and I'm drawing a blank. The necromancer. That's only 6. Well, whatever. You're gonna see all 7 in a second. I'm never able to do that for whatever reason. Next one we're gonna go over, and actually I'm gonna switch to my nameplate because my webcam freezes a little bit. Next one we're going to go over is, let's see, the Sorceress. Sorceress sounds good. Okay. As you can see here, I've got the Sorceress. Now, let me pause it for a second. Sorceress is pretty straightforward. She's pretty much just a caster. That's kind of it. In Diablo 2, you're able to do 3 different skill trees. There was fire, lightning, or ice, and you pretty much just cast it. There was one way that you could stray away from that, and that's like a melee sorceress, which is something I really wanted to do. I also never had a chance to because I could never really get good enough items for that. Basically, one of the fire skills the sorceress had was enchant, and I think I mentioned this last week. Enchant imbued your melee weapon with fire damage, which was really cool, and it gave you this swirling little fire thing around your sword or whatever weapon you're using, and that's that. So again, maybe you focus a little bit different. You wear some bulky armor because you can already teleport as a sorceress. So wear some bulky armor, melee-related stuff, life leech, things of that nature. And I'm kind of just pulling this off the top of my head, but that would make sense. So let's just take a look. I don't really have anything like that. My sorceresses were just skill casting. See, I've got static field. I've got blizzard that I'm shooting around this static field thing right here. Just I think it depletes their health by a quarter or something like that, or 3/4, something along those lines. Yeah, I've got Meteor, Blizzard again. See the Meteor drops in Blizzard. We've got casting, Telekinesis. This was actually a really cool skill. Yeah, you can see I'm basically telekinesis is like a mind blast. So I'm shooting them with my mind, which is kind of cool. It also allows you to pick up items, which I'm about to do in just 2 seconds. Yep, there you go. See how telekinesis? I don't even know the proper. I don't even know the proper word for that. Telekinesized? I have no idea. But I was picking up that gold with my mind. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of the sorceress. It's pretty straightforward. I think I want to get into the Barbarian now. The Barbarian is another straightforward class. He just runs around brute forcing everything. You know, this big bulky guy. He just pretty much melee everything. Although, again, I'm going to mention this for every single class because I'm trying to make a point here. You didn't have to do that as a Barbarian. You can make a throwing knife Barbarian, and you would just run around dual wielding throwing knives and throwing axes, whatever. You would just throw them, you know, like drums. So yeah, you would just throw them, and I mean seems like a pretty cool way to play. For me, I love trying to come up with these different viable builds. Again, it doesn't have to be optimal, it just has to be viable. As long as it works and you can kill stuff, you're good. Even if you can't kill stuff and you can just support the rest of your party, like that's fine, you're solid. So let's get into my Barbarian video a little bit. Okay, Barbarian. Actually, this Barbarian is really cool. See, I've got the Enigma on right now. This is my Shout Barbarian. So I kind of just run around. Yeah, Grimward, that kind of just scares stuff away. Yep, see, I'm kind of just showing off my shouting skills. It's like Battle Command and Battle Cry. That stuff gives me like +1 to all skills and extra health and more defense. But then there's also, so there's offensive and defensive shouts. Basically, like I was just saying, defensive ones give you more health plus skills and whatnot. Offensive ones, on the other hand, as you can see, I'm right about to cast. That does damage, and one of them stuns them. See, I'm killing all these cows right here. One of them stuns them. Yeah, see, there you go. We got a stun. We have one that I think even scares them away, which you're about to see. Yep, there you go. Now they're kind of like, I don't even know. Yeah, okay. So that basically just pulls them in, and this one scares them away. It's kind of like fear. So let me fast forward this just a little bit, and here's my second Barbarian. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna pause this. I lied. There's there's a lot of cool things you do with the Barbarian, and as you can see, neither of my two Barbarians were necessarily like up in the front, you know, like hacking and slashing their way through. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the gist of the game, but again, I like doing weird things. So my first Barbarian was a war cry or a shouting barb, a singer is what they called him in Diablo II, and that was pretty much all they did. I never really swung my weapon. I pretty much just I casted. That was it. So it's kind of like a weird thing to do, and I thought that was really cool. Now, the other one that I have, for any of you guys that played StarCraft 1, there's a Fire Bat. I called this one, this particular one, the Fire Bat. And actually, I did some Googling on the internet, and I could not find anything about this particular class. I'm sure somebody probably knows the spot where I can. But I'm calling it the Fire Bat. Basically, there are items in Diablo 2. This specific item is called the Flame Bellow. The Flame Bellow was a two-handed sword. Barbarians could dual-wield two-handed swords that added fire skills like Meteor and Inferno. Actually, I think the sword might have only done Inferno, but I had pieces of a Necromancer set that I was able to wear that gave me Fireball and Firewall and Meteor and and Blaze even, I think. You'll see in a second. But it's really cool because I'm running around as a Barbarian, and yeah, I cast Whirlwind here and there, but I'm pretty much just running around casting these fire spells. So I've got these boots that add percentage to my fire damage output. So again, it all goes into that planning. So let's pull this up. See? Here's Fireball, Firewall. Here's Meteor, and these swords. Actually, I think that was the Hellfire Torch. It was kind of just a charm. When you get hit or on chance to hit it, it procs like a Firewall type thing. See, yeah, I'm using Whirlwind just because, you know, I gotta kill stuff and I'm out of mana. Here comes Inferno. There you go. So I'm pretty much just running around casting Inferno when I have the mana to. Now, if I was actually trying to make this character all he possibly could be, I would do something like putting an Insight on an Act 2 Mercenary. That way I can always have my mana regeneration fine. I haven't played that Barbarian in a while, so he was kind of just a mule. I just stuck items and whatnot on him. I just logged into him to show off some of the skills and whatnot, because I still pretty much haven't put together. So yeah, like I was saying, I would probably get an Insight, put it on my Mercenary, and that way I would never have to worry about running out of mana. And that's kind of just, that's that. That way I don't have to worry about it. So the next class I want to talk about is the Paladin. And the Paladin, I actually have 3 different Paladins that I'm going to show you guys. just because the Paladin was one of the most popular classes, I would say, in Diablo 2, aside from probably the Sorceress. Although I guess that's debatable. The Paladin was basically like a monk-styled character, similar to Diablo 1 monk. You're able to cast, and you did DPS, so it's kind of similar to the Assassin, I guess, but just in a different light. A lot of times you did go up and you used the Sword and Shield. Like, one of the particular skills he has is Holy Shield. It gives him extra block rate, I mean. And that's kind of the gist of it. So you can run up and you can hit people, you can cast these hammers. That was a really popular playstyle for the Paladin, the Hammerden. Another one, I mean, you could do all kinds of crazy things. Like I mentioned last week, I did my Medic Paladin, and I'm going to show you guys a little bit of gameplay from all three of those. And actually the third one was a Zeal Paladin. That's basically kind of just you run up and hack and slash your way through. So let's look at that. Play. Here we go. Alright, so here's my Hammer Paladin, and yes, I have an Enigma on, that's how I'm teleporting. And my Mercenary has Insight, so I've got this aura on. So yep, here I am just killing cows with these magical hammers that are appearing out of nowhere. Casted Holy Shield, that way I have max block. And I'm just using hammers still. For this particular class, that's pretty much all you do. There's really you don't really stray away from that. Your main attack and your only attack is the hammers. So, you know, that's kind of that. Let's see if we can fast forward just a little bit to my Zeal Paladin. Alright, here's my Zeal Paladin, and boom. I've got all kinds of cool stuff coming. See Poison Nova, you're going to see this fire. Yeah, there's the fire. Basically, the Poison Nova is from my sword. On chance to hit, yep, and then you saw Fist of the Heavens, sorry, that came from my Thunder God's belt. So, yeah, this character is pretty cool. I actually hadn't played him in a while. It was a lot of fun kind of just jumping back on. Yeah, I mean, he's got all kinds of crazy elemental stuff that are just proccing. Like, I've got lightning damage you just saw. I've got, Poison Novas again, fire from my torch. Like, there's all kinds of cool stuff, and again, you know, the Fist of the Heavens will come down and Thunder God's procs, and I've got ice, and yeah, this is just insane. I completely forgot about how many different elemental procs I had on this character. That's pretty sweet. The Zealot, that's what I call him, the Zealot. Zealot was actually a lot of fun to play. I haven't played him in a while, like I said. So that was kind of interesting. It's really not my playstyle, but ironically I had a lot of fun doing that. There's also another cool Paladin-related one called the Smiter. And that's basically you use Smite. Smite is a shield attack. So you take your shield and you just bash them with it, right? It sounds kind of funny, but it's actually like really cool. And they're super, super strong. Like, that was one of the easiest classes to kill Uber Tristram with when you got to that point in the game. Uber Tristram was just kind of, they called it a Pandemonium event. It's just like a unique special event that you pretty much had to do certain things, and you had to gather keys and stuff and unlock portal. Actually, no, you had to get organs. You gathered organs from special bosses in Hell, put them together in the cube, and it opened up a portal to Uber Tristram, just like you could do at the Cow level. As you can see, I was in the Cow level, and it opened up a portal at the Cow level. So similar concept, just a different place, really, and it's a hell of a lot harder. So the next class, I wanted to show you guys the Medic Paladin. Let me fast forward to that a bit. Here we go. Let me rewind it. Alright, so here I am, my Medic Paladin, just got in the game. He's got an Enigma on, so he's teleporting around. He's wearing an Insight, so he always has plenty of mana. Fist of the Heavens. Basically, Fist of the Heavens, what it does is it shoots down a bolt that I think only does damage to, like, undead, which is why I'm not actually killing anybody. And then these holy bolts heal myself and my party members that are around. So for some reason, I'm not getting hit, and I have absolutely no idea why until I actually move. And then, yeah, then they start killing me. So yeah, as you can see, this character is relatively useless unless he's in a party. This is kind of cool. I think this is Vengeance. This pretty much just does elemental damage per hit. In a couple seconds here, I'm actually going to start casting Conversion. Conversion was a relatively cool skill. Oh yeah, showing off some of the different auras I've got. Holy Freeze, Holy Shock, Holy Fire. It just does elemental damage in an area of effect around me. And there's Sacrifice. It just sacrifices some of my health to do damage to the monsters, and I'm casting Holy Bolt at these non-undead cows, which is why they're not taking damage. Yes, and then my cousin just died right there. So I throw on Vigor, start running around, Prayer, that way I don't die. Yeah, I mean, if you don't understand, that's kind of why I'm just going through explaining the thought process. See here, I finally just see conversion because I haven't used this character in a while. So this little tornado looking thing means that I've converted that cow. So as you can see, they're over there fighting each other. So it's almost a way to build up my own army. And as far as I remember, there's no limit. So I can just use conversion and they'll just run around and kill each other, which is a pretty cool skill. Normally something you only saw in the Necromancer, who was more of a summoner type, or the Druid even. So yes, that is the gist of the Paladin. Probably three of the most popular ones would be the Zealot, the Hammerden, and the Smiter. The Medic Paladin, I mean, I'm sure people have done it. I haven't really seen any. Like, I don't think I've ever come across any in-game, just because it's relatively useless unless you're playing with a party. And you really only play with a party in that manner when you have when you have friends. I mean, I have friends, but I didn't necessarily play with them in Diablo 2 every single day like maybe I would have 10 years ago. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of the Paladin. Let's see, I've talked about the Amazon, or no, not the Amazon, I talked about the Assassin, the Barbarian, the Paladin, the Sorceress. So let's talk about the Druid. The Druid is an elemental caster type character, and he's kind of like a nature summoner. So like he can summon ravens, he can summon bears, he can actually transform into a bear or a wolf, which was pretty cool. That added a completely different style of gameplay. I don't think I have a bear character to show off, so my particular Druid just pretty much ran around and used elemental skills, stuff like Hurricane, which did a giant AoE, cold damage. There were things like Poison Creeper, although that was kind of a summoner that just kind of swam around the underground and poisoned dead bodies or poisoned bodies. I used Arctic Blast, things of that nature, Tornado, stuff. Pretty much just anything you could think of, elemental related, he kind of had that ability. Like there's Volcano was one of them. So I will jump right into that, and we will check out a little bit of the Druid. Let's see, Druid. Play. Alright, so right now I am in Hell. Cyclone Armor, Hurricane, and boom, I just run around and pretty much just wreck stuff. And yeah, I'm playing in normal difficulty, and I'm like level 80 right now. That's kind of why I'm just killing stuff so easily, but I thought it'd be cooler to show it off that way rather than me standing around for 10 minutes trying to kill something with an AoE in Hell, because it would have looked relatively stupid. And the only point I'm trying to get across here is pretty much the pros and cons for each class and what they're good for. So yeah, I cast a little bit of Tornado. In a few seconds I'm going to run up here and cast Arctic Freeze, Arctic Blast, Arctic Blast. There you go. So you can kind of check out what that is. I don't actually know if I actually get landed hits on anybody, and that's just because my Hurricane does so much damage and these normal monsters don't really have that much health. Yeah, there you go. See, it froze them. Okay. So yeah, not too difficult. I mean, he's a relatively easy character. Then again, all of them are, depending on what builds you go with. I mean, if you do something like a Medic Paladin, I mean, obviously it can get a little bit complex. But yes, that is the gist of the Druid. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Amazon. Look, Amazon is pretty cool. Amazon, I want to say, is like the direct port of the Rogue from Diablo 1. She was the bow and arrow class, range type thing. She also had javelins, which is kind of cool. That was probably the two most popular classes or builds for the Amazon, just because there really wasn't much else you could do with her. At least not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, yeah, pretty much just bow and arrow and javelin, and there's really only so much you could say about that. Some of the bow and arrow skills were, she had elemental bow skills like fire arrow and ice arrow. Some of the cool ones, which I'm going to show off in the video, is magic arrow and multi-shot. I really like multi-shot. That was freaking awesome. Alright, so let's jump into that video. And there, I close my eyes. Alright, Amazon. Boom. Play. Full screen. Okay, Amazon. Here we go. That right there. Oh, I think that's magic arrow. Yeah, that's magic arrow. See, it's just kind of doing magic damage, not necessarily using bolts or anything. Here's guided arrow. I'm trying to get it to proc. There you go, guided arrow. It's like a homing missile kind of a thing. So you don't actually have to aim right at them. See, there you go. That's pretty cool. Multi-shot. This is by far my favorite skill. Love multi-shot. And here I cast Viking or Valkyrie. Valkyrie is kind of just like a just a summon that I can pretty much call in to help me. Most classes have something like that, but Really only the Druid and the Necromancer could do anything substantially with that. I really wanted to do something along those lines. Like, something that I really wanted to do for Diablo 2 is to figure out how to make a summoner class for every class. So, like, the Paladin, I could do Conversion. For the Necromancer, obviously, Skeletons and Golem and Revive and whatever. The Druid had his Wolves and Bears and everything he could summon. The two of them were obviously easily summoning classes. But the Amazon, you could use Valkyrie. The Assassin had Shadow Master. Sorceress didn't really have anything, which is kind of a little bit of a problem, so obviously you can't really do much with the Sorceress. Barbarian had Grimward, which I guess we kind of... I don't really think you can do anything with that, but it's kind of cool. The Grimward was the thing that I showed off in the beginning of the video. It pretty much just makes a ward of the dead body and scares enemies away, so there's not much you can do substantially with that. But that's kind of the gist. Let's check out the Amazon a little bit more. See, I'm using Guided Arrow still, and... I think I actually cast Fire Arrow, Ice Arrow. I mean, it's pretty much what you expect. I just kind of throw off a fiery arrow, and it does fire damage, or it does ice damage, or what have you. I think there are other things, like there might have been Explosive Shot, I think, just did like AoE fire damage when it landed. Just things like that. It's pretty interesting, but then again, it's also pretty straightforward. So let's see. We've talked about the Assassin, we've talked about the Sorceress, Amazon, Paladin, Druid, Barbarians. Okay, so the next one... I am really showing off my favorite class towards the end, and this is the Necromancer. The Necromancer was probably the easiest summoning class to make. I guess it could be debated, you know, the Druid, obviously, like I was saying before. Druid and Necromancer are the top two summoners. Necromancer was more of an undead type thing. He summoned skeletons, like he raised skeletons and skeleton mages from dead bodies. He had different types of golems. You can have a clay golem or a blood golem. Blood golem was really cool. That was the one I primarily used, and that was because when the blood golem hit something, it did lifesteal, and then when it stole life from the enemy, you actually got life from the blood golem. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, when the blood golem took damage, so did you. So basically, the two of you have shared blood. There's Iron Golem, which is actually really, really cool. You basically summon a golem from an item, and depending on that item's stats, your golem would have that particular stats, which were sometimes good, sometimes bad. Maybe you'd use Iron Golem on a skill or an item you didn't want to lose, like a Stone of Jordan, which I've seen done before, or stuff like that. Just really valuable weapons and items that you didn't want to lose, and you accidentally did it. That kind of sucked, but whatever. So let's get in to my Necromancer. Now, my Necromancer is specifically focused on summoning, like I said before. Let's play it in full screen. Okay. He's got Enigma. This character is completely, fully decked out. Like, I spent probably the most time on this character out of any of the other possible classes, just because I wanted to make him perfect. Like, he's got an inventory full of skill charms, so like I got my skeleton skill up to level 43, is what I think it's at, and like the maximum you can get skills to is only 20 unless you use items, so I get plus 23 skills just from my items. Like, I've got perfect items, like my Shaco is a helm. I really spent a lot of time decking this character out. So here you go, I'm setting on my army. I've got 16 skeletons. I'm about to have 16 skeleton mages. If I casted battle orders, battle cry, battle shout, whatever, I think I could have had 17, but I didn't, so whatever. Here we go. I'm just going to kind of teleport around. So my golem, bone shield, bone armor, and I've got curses. So terror, or amplified damage is what I've got on right now. Amp damage is what allows me to I guess it's pretty straightforward also. It does an AoE curse, and it just makes these monsters take extra damage. So as you can see, I'm just teleporting around, just kind of wrecking everything and I'm not even having to do anything. All I have to do is teleport, and my skeletons and my mercenary and golem take care of the rest of it. And I mean, it's as simple as that. Yeah, see, I was casting Poison Nova just because I can. That's one of the Necromancer skills by default. See there, I just casted amplified damage, so everything takes an amplified damage, obviously. There are other things you can do as a Necromancer. For this particular class, you could do things like Corpse Explosion, which, again, straightforward. It just explodes corpses on the ground, does a small AoE damage. You can do Teeth. Teeth is just like a giant, like, wave cone of damage kind of type thing. You just shoot teeth. I mean, there's another type of revive I could do, or summon I could do called Revive. It just literally revives that dead whatever it is. So if there were cows, I could revive cows. If it were Fallen or Quill Rats, it would just revive Fallen or Quill Rats. You kind of get the gist of it. Necromancer was one of the popular ones was summoning. Another one was Poison and Bone. That was a really popular PvP one. You just did things like Poison Nova and Bone Spear, Bone Spirit, stuff like that. I never really did that, so I can't really show that off to you guys. But yes, that's the gist of it. So that's all 7 classes from Diablo 2, 5 classes from Diablo 1. I'm going to take a short commercial break, drink some water, catch my breath. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Diablo 3 classes, and I'm going to explain why I just spent all this time showing you guys the Diablo 1 classes. Okay, and Diablo 2 classes. So, we're going to take a short break, about a minute or two, and then we're going to jump right back into Diablo 3 specific content. Alrighty, I believe we are back. Again, this is episode 2 of the Diablo Daily. I pretty much just needed to get a little water break because my throat's starting to hurt from talking. I probably shouldn't talk as much, but when the game comes out, we'll be able to do that. I'll be able to focus a hell of a lot more on gameplay-related things than me kind of just sitting here and explaining stuff. Obviously I'm going to explain stuff, but it'll be a hell of a lot different style. Anyway, the first thing that I wanted to show off for Diablo 3 classes, I guess I'll go ahead and list them right now. For the Diablo 3, we're looking at the Monk, the Demon Hunter, the Witch Doctor, the Wizard, and the Barbarian. So that's the 5 classes we've got right now for Diablo 3. Each class had their own specific cinematic trailer, and I think by far the best class trailer was the Demon Hunter. Now that was also the last one made, so that's probably why. But I think the best class trailer, cinematic trailer, was the Demon Hunter. So to kind of just kick things off with Diablo 3 classes, I'm going to go ahead and show that because I think that is super, super awesome. So I'm going to cue this up and play it right now. Yes, I guess that's a buffer. So I'm just going to pause it for a couple seconds and talk. So yeah, Demon Hunter. I guess it's probably because I'm streaming. I guess that would make sense. Yeah, I'll just give it a couple seconds. Demon Hunter basically, as you're about to see, is like this very demonic. She's not really demonic. She's obviously a human, or a Nephilim is what they're called. She just kind of has this demonic touch about her, and it's because she lost her family due to the demon attacks, and she kind of got brought in by this cult of people that wanted to get revenge on these demons called the Demon Hunters, which is where this character class comes from. So her main thing is bow and arrow type skills. She also does traps. So she's kind of like a mix between the assassin and the Amazon. So the 2 female classes from Diablo 2, the Assassin and the Amazon. Again, the Amazon was the bow and arrow, javelin type thing. The Assassin was late traps and martial arts. Demon Hunter is right in there. So she does traps, she does some martial arts type things. She can throw grenades, like the shockweb I showed off in the assassin video, but then she also primarily uses bow and arrow, just like the Amazon. She also has multi-shot. She has this rapid fire, which is a really cool skill. So, alright, I think this video should be okay to go, so we're just going to try again. Alright, let's play. Man, that's killing me.
Someone survived.
Yep, that's kind of what I expected to happen. Alright, so I mean, obviously this is going to take forever to buffer and watch. You guys can just go ahead and check it out yourselves. You can just search Diablo 3 Demon Hunter Cinematic, BlizzCon 2010, whatever. The chat jam, that's the Diablo fans channel. Pretty much, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I kind of went through and I have been using all of the videos from the Diablo fans channel, and that's because when I ran Diablo fans, I made it my goal to like build up the YouTube channel, and I went through and researched, and I found literally every single Diablo cinematic, every Diablo trailer, gameplay preview, all things like that. So they're all on the Diablo 2 or Diablo fans channel. Yeah, so this is taking forever to buffer. A little bit of a disappointment, but whatever. You guys can check it out yourselves. It's really sweet. Look it up on YouTube. Go ahead. Anyway, I was just going to kind of show off. This is a really cool character class, and that's that. So I guess actually with that in mind, I guess we can just talk about the Demon Hunter class as a whole. So let me see if I can pull up this gameplay preview. Hopefully, because again, I'm using YouTube videos, which is probably not too smart on my end, but like I said before, it makes things easier. So let's just go ahead and see if we can play this. Okay, so yeah, there's Vault. Bola Shot is what this one is. Yeah, that kind of just does damage and stuff, and then she's shooting Entangling Shot. So as you can see, yeah, lots of arrow-related skills. Vault. Here, let me pause this and talk about that for a second. Vault is the Demon Hunter's escape skill. Each of the 5 classes has specific escape skills. The Demon Hunter specifically is Vault. It pretty much just vaults her. You know, it's like a couple of yards worth of a cartwheel kind of a thing, and that's just how she's allowed to escape. So the Wizard obviously has teleport. The Witch Doctor has a really cool one called Spirit Walk. It like puts him in the spirit realm, and he goes invisible and just kind of runs really fast, and he kind of has like this fade around him. It's kind of cool. Barbarian has Leap again, and that leaves the Monk. Monk has Dash or Charge, basically with a skill from the Paladin, and I think that's all 5. If I missed one, that's kind of embarrassing. So yeah, there's the escape skills, and I kind of feel like I'm forgetting one. Whatever, you'll see. So yeah, back to Demon Hunter. She pretty much just uses bow and arrows type skills. She also has Throwing Knife, which is kind of cool. That kind of just reminds me of the Assassin's martial arts. Otherwise, you can really see a lot of the Amazon in her. So she kind of just runs around. Yeah, she's talking to this quest NPC right now. And here's a random event. Random events are going to be huge in Diablo 3. I'm going to talk a lot about that later. But yeah, she's just kind of running around. Bola Shot, Entangling Arrow. Grenades, there you go. And now switching to a different one. She vaulted. She's getting shot. Bola Shot, Entangling Shot. So as you can see, you primarily... oh, there's Fan of Knives. That was kind of cool. Let me see if I can rewind that. So... here we go. Yeah, there's the Entangling Shot. And boom, Fan of Knives. Okay. So in Diablo 3, you don't only have to use 2 skills at a time. Diablo 1, you're only able to use 1 skill. Diablo 2, you can actually use 2 skills at a time. You know, you had your left and right click. In Diablo 1, you're only allowed to assign your right click. So Diablo 2, you had your left and right click, and you could assign skills to either side. Diablo 3, now we have 5? We've got 5, 6, 7. 7 total. 7. It's 7. We've got 7 total. So you've got arrow keys 1 through 5, and then you've got left and right mouse click. And they actually had a tab slot, which I think they removed, which you could like tab a right click skill. So you hit tab and it flips between 2 different ones. So yeah, 7 total, 1 through 5 on the number keys, and then you've got right and left click. So now you're not only restricted to 2 skills, now you're allowed to use 6 or 7 total. Actually, I think it's 6 now because they moved over a potion slot. Whatever. So basically you can use every single skill that you pick. Now that's where Diablo 3 is a hell of a lot different than Diablo 2, and I was talking a little bit about this on Wednesday. It's more like a skill kind of pool type thing, more than a skill tree. Although I guess it's kind of a combination of both, really, because you have to hit a certain level in order to pick specific skills, and you don't necessarily have to I don't have to pick one skill to pick the next skill. I just have to hit a certain level requirement. The skill system in D3 is completely different than Diablo 2. And Diablo 1, actually. So Diablo 1, you went around and you read books. Diablo 2, you went around and you picked like the top. You're able to access this one, and then once you pick this one, you can get to this one and this one, or the other tree, whatever. Basically, that's the gist of that. Diablo 3, once you hit level 2, you can pick any skills that have level 2 requirement, and you can put that in. And now this isn't permanent. You're able to hot swap your skills whenever the hell you want. And that way, you don't have to worry about messing up your character. That's one of the big things in Diablo 3. They don't punish new player mistakes, I guess you can call them, for not really knowing. Because if you don't know this back in Diablo 2, well, now you're stuck with this skill. If you don't like it, you're stuck with it. So in Diablo 3, you have the ability to pick a skill and kind of just run with it. Pick a skill, run with it. Pick a skill, well, I don't like that one, so I'm going to switch it to this one instead. Now, they kind of split it up just recently into 6 different categories. There's like defensive and offensive, and escape, and damage, and whatever. And that's what it is by default. But there's an option to change it. It's called elective mode. In elective mode, you're allowed to use any skill in any slot that you want. And that's probably what most people are going to do once they actually find out that that's available. For those of you that don't know that that's available, well, then you're going to have to be using one skill per category, and you're going to be pissed off like, why can't I change this here? Well, that's because you didn't know about elective mode. So I'm hoping that you guys can do that. It's just in options, gameplay options, or something like that. I'm really hoping they put it right in the skill interface in Diablo 3, but so far they haven't for whatever reason. So yeah, Diablo 3 skills are completely different. On top of skills, they have this runestone system, which I'm going to talk about. I've got a full episode just to talk about runestones. But the gist of that system is that you're able to pick a skill, and then you can pick a rune. So each rune affects each skill differently. Let's say the Alabaster rune does, it doesn't affect my skill looks, it just adds damage. Okay, so that's that. Well, now we've got, say, a golden rune or whatever else, indigo rune, which will maybe, actually perfect example, for the wizard's Hydra is normally a fire Hydra, but if you put an indigo rune in it, well, now it's an arcane Hydra. And if you put whatever the green rune is, it's a poison Hydra, and ice Hydra, and that's really cool. There are other skills that get completely changed, like there's Tornado, or Twister, or whatever it is for the wizard. You cast it, and it's just a regular tornado, like the Druid had in Diablo 2. I showed that video a little bit earlier. Maybe one of the runes splits it up into 3 tornadoes, so now you've got Twister. Maybe that's called Twister. So now instead of shooting 1, you've got 3 of them that shoot. Or you've got, I don't know, maybe one makes it stronger and has a bigger AoE, so it's called Hurricane. And that's pretty much it. There's 5 per class. Yeah, 5 runes per class. So that's just 5 times 25, which is 125 possible skills per class you can have. So that's not different combinations. That's just 125 possible skills per class you can have. That's 125 times 5 classes. After that is, like 625 is what I think that is. Yeah, that's a lot of skills compared to the, 200 that Diablo 2 had, and the 30, 40 that Diablo 1 had, if that. So yeah, there's a dozen skills, and then on top of that, there's also this thing called passives. Passive skills, as opposed to active skills, which is what I was just telling you about. Passive skills, you pretty much you go through and you can select one of, say, 15 to 20 different passives that are also just unlocked by level. You can't affect these with runestone, so it's just as passive, but you're allowed to have 3 passive skills, and these passive skills just passively add you bonuses. So there are things, I think for the wizard, and I'm talking about the wizard a lot just because that's the one I'm most familiar with. That's probably my favorite class. Like I said, I'm more of that caster type guy. So the wizard, one of them, I don't remember the name of it, but one of the first two you unlock, one of them does, it adds extra, or it allows you to heal your mana, and I'm just going to call it mana for now, and it's not actually called mana. Each class has a different resource system, but I'm going to get to that later. Like I said, I'm just kind of trying to stick to the specific topic and make everything very simple to learn and easy to understand, instead of trying to explain everything all at once. So we'll call it mana for now. So the wizard's resource, you can actually heal that mana when you pick up a health globe, which is not what happens by default. Health globes are just, little globes of health. Actually, you can see it right here on the screen, on the Demon Hunter video. This little health globe right here. This is the bola shot, and this is the fire from it, but this thing right here, health globe and gold and whatever, health globe. Pick up the health globe and it just heals you. And that's it. So it just heals you. The wizard passive allows you to pick up the health globe and get mana. Another wizard passive is like you take less melee damage, stuff like that. So now those are things you don't actually have to cast. As long as you select it, boom, it's a passive, you're automatically getting that bonus. So you've got 6 skills that you can actually cast at a time. So that's another different thing. You can only have 6 skills at a time. In Diablo 2, you could pick, if I want to put 1 skill point into every skill, I can have all, 60 skills per class or whatever. As opposed to Diablo 3, you can only have 6 at a time. But I can swap out one of those 6 skills at any point in time. So that's kind of the premise of the skill system in Diablo 3. Let's just check out the Demon Hunter video a little bit more, and then we're going to move on. I know this is kind of getting a little bit long. I think we're at like an hour or so, so I will try and get through this a little bit quicker. It's not a big deal. Obviously, Diablo 3 ones are the important ones. Basically, I went through and talked about Diablo 1 and 2. That way I could easily relate things back to them, and it'll just allow me to explain everything a hell of a lot easier, instead of me trying to explain everything at once, like I said before. So yeah, just entangling shot, bola shot, yada yada yada, same old stuff. Not a big deal. Alrighty. Now let's talk about the monk. Monk actually really surprised me. I didn't think I was going to like the monk class. The monk is basically the paladin from Diablo 2, and again the monk from Diablo 1. He's like a holy warrior type thing, uses his fists, he has a staff, he kind of has a little bit of martial arts stuff. Actually, he has a lot of martial arts stuff. So I guess he kind of has a little bit of the assassin mixed in. A lot of his skills are like kicking and punching and things of that nature. And that's kind of the gist of the monk. Here, let's just jump into his gameplay a little bit. Man, I hate how YouTube, it's completely buffered, and then as soon as I throw it full screen, it just completely kills it. Anyway, there you go. 7-sided strike is what that just was. I don't want to... Yeah, let's see if I can rewind that a second. Here you go. 7-sided strike. And I don't think he's going to do it again. That's charge. Yep, there you go. And it looks like he actually just leveled up right there. So he's just using all kinds of skills. Fist of Fury or whatever. I'm going to have to brush up on my monk a little bit because it's been a while since I've played him. So basically, as you can see, he does a lot of upfront DPS damage. The one thing about the monk is that he's really weak. So he's kind of like a glass cannon. And actually, I used that term before. Glass cannon is basically lots of DPS, little tanking abilities. So the monk runs around, he's got charge, and charge, that was his escape skill. He can charge into monsters, he can charge away from them. There you go, Fist of Fury, yada yada yada. Showing off the monk. Like I was saying before, I was really surprised by the monk. I'm not the kind of person that really does this kind of stuff. I don't really like upfront, fist combat, but the monk kind of feels like a melee caster almost, and he's really cool. Either a melee caster or like an anti-caster. So in PvP, maybe the monk will be the direct counter to the wizard. I guess we're going to have to see. Then again, it all depends on what kind of build you're going on, because again, and I think I really stressed this point when I was showing off the Diablo 2 videos, you don't have to go with what the status quo says. You can do whatever build you want. So I had my Singer Barbarian, I had my Medic Paladin, things of that nature. I really want to look for stuff like that for Diablo 3. So the monk, yeah, pretty cool class. Like I said, I was surprised. Kind of seems like an anti-caster class. And boom, here we're loading again. And he actually has a barbarian with him, is what it looks like here. And actually a witch doctor and a wizard. Yeah, I didn't even notice that the first time I watched this. Yeah, we got a monk, a barbarian, a witch doctor, and a wizard, 4-player party. This looks like one of those timed events. See, the ceiling was just falling down. Basically, it's like a timed dungeon event. You only have a certain amount of time to get through this dungeon. Otherwise, you get kicked out. So after 60 seconds, you die almost. and then it just kicks you out to the end. Otherwise, I mean, you complete it and you get a bunch of cool loot. That was one of the cool things. This right here is they're in Act 2, as you can see by the desert. And that is basically the gist of the monk. He's kind of like a very DPS-oriented, less tanky barbarian. Although, I'm sure there's going to be some way to do, like, tanking builds. I know you can do a support build. Like, he's got these things called mantras. Mantras are just, like, auras from Diablo II, the paladin. Like, I was showing off Holy Freeze, Holy Fire, Holy Shock. You can pretty much do that with the monk, just, his are more defensive or defense-oriented. Like, I don't know, there is things like, from Diablo 2, there was Prayer, which did healed you, Cleansing, which it did like less poison. Basically, that's kind of the gist. That's the monk. There you go in a nutshell. Let's try and pull up the wizard right now. Wizard, pretty straightforward class, obviously. Just kind of goes around and casts spells. I mean, that's that. One of the really cool things you can do with the wizard is called the Battle Mage, and Jay Wilson, he's the Diablo III game director, showed off the Battle Mage at the Diablo III press event that I attended back in July of last year. And that was kind of just him stressing that same point I was just making, that you can do whatever you want with your classes. As long as you can find a viable build, you're solid. Like, it doesn't have to be optimal. Yeah, you might be able to make this small tweak to make your character the best possible character in the game, but the fun thing about this is that viability is possible. And as long as you're viable, you're square. Like, that's awesome. See, here we go. He's kind of just running around, magic missile, and it looked like he just leveled up. And that actually, yep, he's got a barbarian in the party with him. And he's casting, there you go, there's, oh man, I don't even remember what that's called. That's actually, that skill, that lightning related skill. It's probably just like chain lightning or something like that. It's kind of embarrassing that I don't remember. It's just been a while since I've used it. See, they changed the whole skill system in the beta. Originally, the runestone system changed a bunch. Originally, you found runes on the floor and then popped them into your skills, as opposed to just being able to unlock them based on levels. So yeah, once they changed that, they changed what skills you get at what levels, so everything's pretty much different. Otherwise, I remember using that skill a lot in the early beta. I really love that. That was awesome, along with Disintegrate. Disintegrate's really cool. I don't think it's in this video anywhere, unfortunately, but you basically just run around and it just like melts enemies. It's pretty sweet. It burns your mana really quickly, but it melts them pretty quick also. So let's talk a little bit about the Barbarian and the Witch Doctor. And for the Barbarian, I'm going to, gotta mute that. Barbarian, I'm just going to show off the original trailer, and I think I was using this last week also. On the Barbarian, yeah, you just use leap attack right there. Let me rewind a little bit. Okay, see, Barbarian, another very straightforward class. There, he just used like battle shout, battle cry, whatever. He's kind of just using bash right now, hitting his enemies. There's leap attack. A lot of his attacks are focused on that style of thing. I think I actually went through and I found that each class has a summon, like a potential summon. The Barbarian specific summon is really cool. He summons the Ancients from Diablo II. The Ancients were unique Barbarian monsters. Like they were pretty much a boss in and of itself. And he summons them. It's like Call of the Ancients or something along those lines. And it's actually really cool. He summons these three Ancients to fight alongside with him, and it's actually the exact three Ancients from before. So like one of them is Whirlwind, one of them is Throwing Axe, and the other one does like Double Swing or whatever. So Barbarian, pretty straightforward. One of the things I really wanted to do with the Barbarian, like I said in Diablo 2, was come up with like a shouting kind of casting Barbarian class, because I think that would be freaking awesome, and it's really not something you would expect from the Barbarian class. The Witch Doctor is actually at the end of this video, just because of how Blizzard set it up. Let me see if I can just fast forward to it. I think it was at about 12 minutes. There we go. And while it's loading, I'm going to jump back to me. Okay, so Barbarian, pretty straightforward class. I mean, there's not really much to say. You're probably wondering why I spent so much time talking about Diablo 2, and that was pretty much just to give a little bit of a history. Now, Diablo 3, it's kind of hard to talk really long about each of the classes just because all I know is what we've seen in the beta and kind of just information they've given us, which is really not that substantial. It's not the same as being able to jump in the game, which is what I really wanted to do, but Servers are down right now because of the beta, so I'm just kind of having to rely on these YouTube videos. I wanted to jump in the game, show off the skills of each of the characters. I spent some time leveling them all up to about 6 so I could show off a passive and whatnot. And then characters got wiped and the open beta started and kind of just messed up my plans. But hey, we're winging it because that's what's cool. So we got the Barbarian, the Wizard is your caster type class. We got the Demon Hunter I showed off at the beginning. The Monk is kind of like the DPS Wizard type caster kind of a thing. Now we've got the Witch Doctor. The Witch Doctor is like a combination of the Necromancer and the Druid. And I really think that because his skills are like undead nature type thing. So he summons like zombie dogs, which is kind of cool. He summons a zombie wall, which is kind of similar to the Necromancer's bone wall, except the zombie wall, he summons it, and it's literally like the zombies like clawing their way up. It's pretty sick. Some of the other things, like I said, he summons zombie dogs. He's got this fire bat skill. He literally just like goes like this and just like breathes fire bats out his mouth, which is another cool one. Poison dart's like the first one you get. He just kind of shoots poison dart. I mean, he's got this really cool one at the very end. It's called Gargantuan. He pretty much summons Bigfoot. it's like a weird looking Bigfoot with like a head sticking out of his chest and like crazy stuff. I really wanted to check that out, but we don't get that skill until the end of the game. So my problem with the Witch Doctor is I think he's just a little bit boring towards the beginning of the game. But once you get through normal and you've unlocked a good majority of your skills, that's about level 30 or so. That's when he'll start getting to be fun, because then you level up, you get to add rune effects to each of your skills. That's going to be really cool. And like I said, Gargantuan's going to be freaking awesome. I want to check that out as soon as I can. He's got other skills like Voodoo and Horrify and things of that nature. He's like this, obviously, Witch Doctor, so he's kind of like this like tribal, summoning, ancient, spiritual type thing. Like I said, his escape skill is Spirit Walk. So a lot of his things have to do with the spirit realm. That's kind of his little backstory. So let's see if we can show this video off a little bit. Here we go, I hope. And of course it started to load as soon as I clicked. Alright, there's the Witch Doctor and the Barbarians. Now they go up. And YouTube's killing me. Maybe it's full screen. Well, whatever. I'm sorry. Like I said, I wanted to jump in the game, but the servers are down because they're having all kinds of trouble, and now it's an open beta. Whatever. You got to see everything else. Maybe next episode I'll be able to jump in the game and show off the Witch Doctor a little bit. Maybe I'll show off the Demon Hunter video. Yeah, there we go. Let me see if I can full screen it without it stopping. Here we go. Okay. So, wow, I don't even remember what skill that is. I remember seeing it. I just don't even remember what that's called. But basically, it's like it infects them, basically. So let me see if I can rewind it with it being able to play. So he casts it on these characters, and it affects the ones after that. See, it just like jumps from one to the next. It's like a virus type thing. You know, you don't want to go to the doctor's office because you're going to end up getting sick from everybody else sitting there. You get infected. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you got to see a little bit. I'm pretty sure he comes out here and like he casts zombie dogs and shows that off. Maybe, I think he even casts like that skeleton just kind of, yep, here's zombie dogs and the skeleton's just like floating back. So yeah, you can kind of see what he's all about. That's pretty much the gist of the Diablo 3 classes. I know I spent a lot of time on Diablo 2, but it just makes my job informing you guys a lot easier to do that. We didn't get to spend all that much time on Diablo 3. That's not a big deal. As the game kind of launches and we have more time and more ability to show off each of the classes and things of that like that. Like I said, I want to do a build discussion type theme show once the game comes out post-release. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that because I'm going to be able to do crazy things like a summoning barbarian if that's possible, or a battle mage. I really wanted to work on that one a bit. So that's kind of the gist of that. So I actually found this really cool thing on Reddit that I wanted to show off. Kind of like an Inception mind-blowing thing, because this really blew my mind. Alright, so here we go. Here is the Demon Hunter Monk. Demon Hunter Monk. What? It's the same person? No, it's probably just a little bit, the same art style, because it's probably the same artist that made this image. But it's ridiculously uncanny how similar these characters are. Like, look, like their eyes are in the same spot. Literally, if the monk is wearing a hood, it'd be right there. Like, their chest is the same, their stomach's the same. Literally, it's just the same figure, the same everything, just different colors is almost what it looks like. I wanted to end it off on that note because that, like, seriously, this is Inception type stuff. My mind was just blown after I saw this. So yeah, that's character classes and customization in Diablo 3. I'll be able to get a lot more into it. Once the game comes out, we can talk a lot more, build discussion. That's going to be a lot of fun. So now I just kind of want to end it off on a little bit of announcement stuff. Monday is going to be the next show. Let me see what we're talking about Monday. And actually, I guess it can't hurt to show off my show notes. It's not like there's any giant secret or anything. Here's my show notes. Basically, here's today. So episode 3 is going to be lore. I'm just going to cover all the lore in the game, probably go over some of the novels. That's going to be a lot of fun because Diablo 3 is very heavily integrated with the storyline and the lore. You can't get through the game without playing through the storyline. It doesn't work that way. It's an RPG after all. That's going to be a lot of fun. As far as my beta key giveaway, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with that because I kind of found out that Blizzard did the open beta. Maybe I'll start giving the keys away this weekend. So don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sixen and tweet at me with Diablo Daily, hashtag Diablo Daily. Don't forget to do that so you can be entered in this random drawing. Maybe I'll start giving away this weekend. That way you can just, after the open beta, you can pop in this beta key and not really notice any difference. So yeah, you get to play in the open beta. You get the beta key, you can plug that in, and you just continue playing until May 1st when the beta ends. I think maybe that's what I'll do. Should anything change, I'll let you guys know over the weekend or on Monday's show. So yeah, Monday's show is going to be lore, 3 p.m. PST, 6 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sixen. Check out my website, sixen.evogeniuses.net. We're kind of like in the home stretch for Diablo 3 now. What do we got, like 3-ish weeks left? I'm super excited. So I guess I will see you guys on Monday. Take it easy.